Every journey begins with a simple act of care. For Quest to Unite Africa, that journey started with something simple: a mother, a newborn, and a promise that no life would be forgotten. We did not begin with buildings, we began with people. We packed mother newborn kits with our own hands because real change starts where the need is greatest. Those kids traveled farther than we imagined, and they opened our eyes to a deeper truth. Aid saves lives, but infrastructure saves generations. So we grew. Together with donors, volunteers, and partners, we sent a medical container to Burkina Faso. Not just supplies, but hope. Not just boxes, but proof that when a community comes together, healing moves across borders. That moment changed us because we realized something powerful. We weren't just delivering help, we were building a future. Now the journey continues. The next chapter is bigger than a shipment, bigger than a campaign. We are raising funds to build a state-of-the-art hospital, a place where mothers can give birth safely, where families can find care close to home, and where communities can grow stronger for generations to come. This hospital is not just a structure, it's a promise. A promise that healthcare will no longer be temporary. A promise that dignity will have a permanent home. And just like every step before, we cannot do this alone. Every gift, every brick, every name placed on the founder path becomes part of a story that began with compassion and is growing into legacy. It helps us move from emergency aid to lasting healing, from containers to care that never leaves, from vision to reality. Join us, stand with us, help us build a hospital that will serve generations, moving healthcare into action. Visit Q2UA.org today.
All right. Shalom, salama, everyone. Welcome to another Q2A Live. Q2A Live discussion here on the Q2A channel. My name is Karis Copeland. I'm trying to see if I have my little things here. All right. Okay, that's that's enough. All right. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this Q2A Friday discussion. And um I spent a couple of minutes a week just explaining what in of Q2UA, how that mission has really been, I would say, impactful, to say the least. The other day, I was on the phone with the chief, the king in the village that we were, excuse me, that we are doing the hospital project initiative, and the initiative, it has been rough. You have your ups and you have your downs, because throughout this whole time, it is about bringing a people together. And I'm going to tell you this: by flesh, we are not capable of doing that. We really are not, because we are going through generational And I like to stress that this is generational, multi-generational, um, multi-century rifts in that division. That the mistrust is recent and the mistrust is ancient. And all that, I'm going to tell you this. I get nervous sometimes, and you can tell that there's a sense of nervousness when it comes to how we're engaging with one another because, well, this requirement here, that requirement's there, spell this on out here, have this, and that's okay because that's how we generally want to do business with each other anyway. That's what we do here in the United States. Hey, I don't know you. You don't know me. Look, the only reason I can even ask for you all's help in the community of what we're doing at Q2UA was simply because a track record had been established. And I tell that to people all the time. Q2UA was born out of the building bridges that Sister Shonda had started and I had helped her on out. And, you know, initiatives and things of that nature, they outgrow. And for our people to start to move to the next stage, the next iteration. Because as I had been telling people, and you know, I have to make sure to let folks know again here, as we've been saying this since 2023, we are not a hate group. This is not a hate group. This is about building critical infrastructure and economic development on the African continent. And you want to know what that means and that says to folks that are of different demographics that are the many can argue and say the dominant demographic here in the African diaspora, particularly here in the United States. Well, for years that didn't bode well. For years there would be some sort of stupid games and things of that nature. We just had that last April. But the Most High is good because we continue to move through and move through and move through with shipping containers. Excuse me, container. And we pray more to follow. Because in a dynamic, in a scenario that looks impossible, we serve an also Elohim that makes all things possible. Now, does it sound impossible? Yeah, with man, you know, things are impossible. But with Yahuwah, all things are possible. That's why here we are a Bible based organization. We're a faith based organization. However, you want to interpret it, however, you want to debate it, we're not here to debate. We're actually here to do. We're here to move. We're here to connect. We're here to engage. We're here to establish relationships. And every week, I have to laugh because I'm going to bring up this article here. And this article obviously is a French based article. I'm putting it here in the chat. And I'm going to share out this article. Now, before I begin, I want to give a special shout out to African Catalyst TV, and I will share his video here in the chat so you all can see. He brought up some interesting topics. And I say this, I respect his view of the continent. And that's what I always tell people. Look, I respect your view. I may not agree with all your views, but I'm going to respect it. And and in regards to that link, Brother Yacoba had brought something up earlier this week on Teo Ministries regarding Africa, regarding how things are reported, what is purported, especially when you have AI generated content. I'm sorry, when it's AI generated content, I tend to not take things as serious, or it's what did they throw together for clickbait so they can knock out videos, you know, dozens of videos a day so they can then get their counts up, beat the algorithm, and then, get to their place to where they're, generating revenue and content. And trust me, I could do that. I could do that. Well, let me just produce, 500 videos a day, and then I'll go live in the morning. That would be a great algorithm tool. But you start to lose a little bit of authenticity. You start to lose the relationship. And, as we've been going through as a generation right now, as a society, as a people, we're going through one of the greatest propaganda errors ever. And some things about propaganda, you have to do propaganda every single day. It's a conditioning tool. When you are not doing propaganda and you're being genuine to your message or what your position is, it takes time. Because why? Because it's showing that there's a relationship being built. I wasn't giving updates every day. Yeah, we're doing this thing in Ghana, and we got stuff in Burkina Faso, and let me show you a video. Let me show you a video. Well, number one, I don't live out in Ghana, and I don't live out in Burkina Faso. And number two, I don't want to show the same stock photos and videos and have the same sound bites with zero updates. That's not very that's not very fair. Give me a one if you all can hear me. I see Pastor Rick Fletcher in the chat is saying, okay, all right. Man, there goes that. Look, well, I was saying, maybe I spoke too soon. I said, last year we had challenges. Now maybe we got challenges now. They don't like these lives. Oh my goodness. Because this is as soon as I had put in these links. And not just the links. This is as soon as I had literally shared my screen. So they don't like this stuff. They don't like to see this. Let me show you this. This is from Afrique Media, published 20 Avril April, posted in within DOMS. It's not classified or unclassed. So this is obviously it is highly French. So the great thing is I do know a little bit of French to be dangerous. I'm not the greatest at it, but I do have to say I'm glad that I've kept sticking to French. I was really engrossed in French for like 5 years. Got a chance to speak every day for about an hour. That gives that develops your core understanding of languages, especially you could speak a language, but then being able to comprehend and have other people comprehend what you're saying, those are two different things. So going to this article, President of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, receives African Union leader Burundian Evariste Ndayishimiye. Shimi, Nadeyishimiye. Nadeyishimiye. I believe that's what it is. I'm trying not to butcher these names. I don't know if that's a Nadeyishimiye. You know, I don't know. I'm trying. We're all learning together in this thing. All right, so let's zoom in on this article here. Excuse me. I am just Fridays usually get to me. I'm sorry, family. It's right at Shabbat in some of the world this evening. Here we go. In a period marked by major political shifts and persistent security challenges across the African continent, Burkina Faso's capital became the stage for a significant diplomatic engagement. The president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, officially received the president of Burundi and current chairperson of the African Union, Evariste Ndayishimiye, in a high level meeting that goes beyond protocol to reflect the renewed drive for continental cooperation. A high level political encounter, a solemn yet fraternal atmosphere. The two leaders discussed key issues shaping Africa's future: security in the Sahel region, regional stability, governance, and the strengthening of African integration. That's everything that that I'm writing about in my dissertation. Most I will, and I'll be able to defend that and within a week. Most High willing. So please keep me up in your prayers with that, family. Burkina Faso, currently undergoing a political transition and facing significant security threats, continues to seek stronger partnerships within the continent, rooted in sovereignty and mutual support. So, for his part, the African Union chairperson emphasized the importance of a united Africa capable of addressing its challenges through African led solutions and collective action. Okay. Bear with me now because I had so much to discuss on this. I understand what is going on and what's at play. I have to keep things a little bit more on a temperamental level. But let's just get the basic understanding out here. The president of Burundi, who is the chairperson of the African Union that had kicked out the Sahel Alliance, the African Union that did not want to recognize the Sahel Alliance, flew on over to Burkina Faso, to Ouagadougou, and sat down to meet Ibrahim Traore. Let me tell you what that is in the political speak. This is the political speak. This is politics. The one gentleman from African Catalyst TV, he had a good breakdown, and it's good. But let me tell you and explain this to you all in more of the Western format that deals with the mindset of the West. And the reality is this: the king doesn't come to you, you come to the king. I'm sorry. Give me a one in the chat if you agree with that statement. Give me a two in the chat if you don't agree with that statement. The king doesn't go to you, you have to go to the king. See, what that showed was it showed an emphasis of power and authority that was being wielded because understand what ended up happening. Somebody's power and authority has magnified, somebody's power and authority has declined. You know, a couple of years ago, and we've had this discussion on this platform, on this channel, and multiple channels. A couple of years ago, people were asking the question: is the African Union just a Western dominated shell for some sort of an alliance or things of that nature? And many would argue, yes, it was. But then some things started to happen. There are some transformative things started to take place because folks' quote unquote observation status, and we know who that is. It's in a country, I'm going to just say geographically positioned northeast of Egypt. When they had been officially removed from an African Union meeting, a council meeting, the dynamics in the atmosphere began to shift. Even though, yes, they had to create the staunch the staunch delivery of, well, we cannot accept these coups, we can't accept these strongmans and everything else. And the reality was, well, they couldn't deal with and reconcile their own hypocrisy. And while that argument was going on, again, as I told you, patience and seeing and looking, the reality was these Sahel nations had then began to grow, even when sanctions, even when militaristic operations were being done and conducted by the major influence on Western, and by Western forces, i.e., you don't know how that how do these folks get the money and the funds to get weapons over into their hands? A lot of things have been exposed, and guess what? Understand those exposures, they start to carry weight in their own countries. Wait, why are you doing that to try to destabilize them? Why are you doing that to try to do this? If you didn't know, last year things were getting really hot, and it looks like to me, I think what was going on, Kenya is also going through some protest. And why is that? Well, let me bring up an article if I'm able to. A lot of stuff was happening last Friday. This is from, I guess, Citizen Digital from a Kenneth Gatchy. Right here. Tuesday, Kenyans go back to the streets over high fuel prices. This is as of April 20th, last week. And so they did. Oh, excuse me. That was not last week. That was this week. Tuesday. Total shutdown Tuesday, 21st of April. So about 3 days ago. 3 days ago. Kenyans could return to the streets on Tuesday in what has been dubbed the Reject Fuel Prices Showdown. The Gen Z is whipping up a frenzied campaign to once again dominate the streets, rock the government, make loud pronouncements, and exercise their constitutional rights. Well, that's again what they're afraid of. Let's just put that on out there. That's what they're afraid of. And yes, Minister Rick is saying, yes, everyone now sees what can be done under true sovereignty. You got to have the two or three witnesses that every matter be established. And what ended up happening over this last week was that you had a visit from a head of state, from a head of an international union that had to recognize the legitimacy and the power of the Sahel states, particularly that of Burkina Faso, particularly that of a region, a continent that is now going through a very interesting transitionary season. Will they rise up and take back their global authority? This isn't just a regional authority, this is global authority. And this is one of the things that we look at in terms of critical infrastructure economic development. How do we help our brothers and sisters? How can we engage with them? How can we support them? How can we support them with medical, with education, with production, with technologies, with innovations? These are the things that we're able to do because that's what we've learned. We've grown up understanding how they talk, how they operate, what they actually mean, and what is actually being said. We know all about the shadowy talk and dark sentences. We know all about that. But right now, I want to say that that visit that occurred a couple of days ago, that's a huge deal. And when you have a continent that is now showing that they're now flexing on reestablishing themselves, understand that that puts the whole world on notice that something's going on. That there's a reconciliation taking place. See, healing has to start on the land. It has to start in the land. And then once it starts in the land, guess what? It starts to outgrow its borders. A little over 4 weeks ago, you had a declaration by John Mahama, the president of Ghana. That proposed resolution that had been adopted of recognizing the transatlantic slave trade as one of the greatest, as the greatest human rights atrocity in history. That recognizes that there was a hurt and a pain, so then a healing can begin. What we're doing here, we're just trying to heal. There's political healing, there's spiritual healing, there's economic healing, there's diplomatic healing, economic, you name it, financial. There's healing across the spectrum. And now that process is beginning because now folks are recognizing the problem. You can't say, "Oh man, I need to try to do what I need to do to cure my liver." Have you stopped drinking a dozen beers a night? No, I never thought about that. People don't know unless you tell them. They have to be educated. Education's through information being disseminated. This is why this age, this time frame is so important, why it's so critical. Because now we're in a generation of repairing and restoration. Repairing and restoration. These aren't just keywords or different phraseologies. This is a time to where we are able to mobilize as a people, as a community, to help support these missions, to help support these projects, these programs. No, we're not a church. We are a 501c3 doing charity work. We're not under doctrine where it could be as flaky as wherever it wants to go, depending on what type of choices that are made to show who their deity is. And then later removed and saying, "Oh, well, it was just being a doctor." This is about a mission. That mission is restoration. That mission is repair. That mission is healing. Have you noticed that's been the thematics here, the themes here, healing, because that's the truth. You can't heal as a people. You can't heal as a community. You can't heal unless you recognize that you need help. You need healing. And the dominant society here will not recognize that because why? Because honestly, they really don't want us to heal. Because when you're able to heal, you're able to see clearly. And when you're able to see clearly, you begin to change, you begin to think, you begin to act, and you begin to be empowered. That's it. So, getting on my or off of my 501c3 high horse soapbox. I don't think that's a high horse, but I just want to make sure that our people know This is how we move within the community. And simply we move with love, with patience and with understanding. No, we're not going to be healed all together right away, just like that. Snap of a finger. No, healing takes time. True healing takes time. It's just like any other body part. You break something, you just can't say, oh, you know what? Gave it 2 weeks, the bone's still mending and everything else. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to re break that bone if you do something to impact that. Oh, my knee, it's still recovering from surgery. Just had a week ago, and I think I can just go and run. What are you gonna do? You're gonna tear your knee up. All those ligaments and everything else, they weren't strong enough. We gotta have strong ligaments, strong bones. This body has to be rebuilt. One relationship, one breath at a time. Gee, I don't know. I think I read that somewhere in scriptures. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And that's why I say, listen, don't ask for everything all at once. It still takes time to build into that. But I'm going to say this. I believe the African Union's on the right track. I do. But you got to also remember, see, for those that may not truly understand how the politics work, um, they have a pew pew to their head. Sorry, that's how that works. Like literally. Oh, okay, you do this, we're gonna get this dirt on out you. Oh, okay, you do that, well, we're gonna coup you and replace you with our person. Oh, don't worry, you'll have a engine failure and crash over the mountain somewhere. Done it before, done it quite extensively. Oh, they'll mourn you, and then all life goes on. Because why? Because again, that hasn't necessarily been a concept and a construct that they have put together just yet. They don't know what assassinations really mean. These like uh totally covert things going on. They're only beginning to really find out with Patrice Lumumba. But that's the story for another time. The only reason that honestly that visit happened, just in my opinion, is that visit shows the power that is no longer there from Western nations. That's it. Oops, my bread and butter is no longer bread and butter because this oil is really messing them up and it's messing me up. So we're going to have to work together on this. Look, I don't care what the African Union has said about slave trade. Do you know Traore said something about it? And now that's all that counts. He hasn't just said anything about it. He opened up the door for the African diaspora. That's all that counts. So if you're recognizing the king, generally speaking, guess what's going to end up happening? Then you're going to have to take up the same tendencies as the king. So why? So then you can be able to establish that relationship. So number one, these countries aren't drowning. Because why? Because now their relationships with the West or whomever is now in a considerable decline or disadvantage. Plain and simple. Yeah, let that thing take time. Because you don't know what's discussed, but that was discussed behind closed doors. I don't know. That's why it comes out in the press briefing. Trust me, it'll come out over time. But with that, I got to get up on out of here. Got to get rolling. Thank you all for coming through on Q2UA Discussions Live. If you'd like to support our initiatives, that includes Hospital Project, that includes the container, please visit Q2UA.org. Please visit Q2UA.org. Sorry, family, I am still kind of struggling out here with these wildfires. So air quality is taking its toll. So trying my best on out here. My voice is getting a little bit better, but yeah. So with that, most high willing, I'll be back with you all on Covenant Awakenings this Monday, or I'll be back with you all on Covenant Awakenings sometime this weekend, as it looks like things may be going down here in Iran. So again, all the stuff that's happening on over there in the Middle East is impacting the African continent, actually in a very positive way. So just giving you that. All right. So with that, I'm gonna head up on out of here. Be blessed. Shalom, everyone.